Hey everybody, my name is Wallace. I am a vampire and I am honestly kind of in a bad mood. I'm kind of tired, um, and I don't know. But yeah, vampire up. Woo! Sorry for that. Anywho, my vampire diaries here. Um, I don't know. I was thinking just gonna ask some questions. I've been doing that, and yeah. Um, I'm just gonna ask some questions that I think are kind of like obvious, but like are I don't know. I just feel like asking. So, like, do people mess with me even though they know I'm a vampire? Absolutely, they love to, and I like to. Most of the time, I. How do I say this? This is this is interesting. Like, yeah, I'll play along sometimes. Sometimes I'll just like act normal, and then they play around with me and like get to know my reactions and kind of get to know me better. I think that's fine. It's not a big deal. But sometimes I find myself doing like some silly stuff, like when I'm not a vampire, when I'm not vampiric, like I am now. I'm just kind of just, I'm not pretending to be just normal or tired or crazy from having an exhausting day. That's just how I am. That's a part of me that's there. Am I being all secretive about the fact that I'm a vampire? No. Um, do people maybe I could see how people can like suspect me of being like kind of suspicious. But I have a strict policy. Remember, my number one is one of the early videos. Number one rule: don't hurt anybody. Rule number two: obey the laws. So those are some of my golden rules. So even when I'm tired, I'm really aware. Do I allow myself to be um, accidental? Like not thinking a couple steps ahead, like not being aware of my surroundings, just kind of like being a normal dude focusing, tired dude focusing on my things. Absolutely, I do that. And because of that, do I get sometimes suspected or accused of doing certain things or being, manipulative? I do. I do get accused of that. Um, what happens when that happens? Well, I don't know. I try to be funny about it, but I think to myself, well, maybe I'm being accused of potentially being like manipulative or like potentially like sexual or potential, it could, but the reality is, if I don't do any of those acts, if I don't, like, I realize like there are things I could do to follow up with that, like maybe get somebody's phone number afterwards or whatever. But the sad reality is, because I'm a vampire, I can't do that. Or I can do that, but it's very suspicious. And I've tried to do that in the past. I've tried to learn, like part of me was like, well, I really like this person, but this person's like suspicious and like will not stop being suspicious of me. Um, so I'm like, I try to joke around and like try to like, show that I'm actually interested, but still doesn't work. So that's not an option for me, and I realized that. I learned that. Because reality is like sometimes I just want to be friends. You know, I just yeah, maybe I'm interested. Maybe like we could be like more than friends, but because I'm a vampire, the I've learned that that's not an option for me. It's like the it's complicated, but like, do I want to have like intimate relationships? Of course I do. Do I want to have just like platonic relationships? Of course I do. Um, but it was kind of sad. Like I was speaking to someone in my family, my grandpa. My grandpa's like, "What do you do for fun?" Like, don't you go out and hang out, like have people over and hang out with them or whatever? I'm like, no, I don't say that I'm a vampire around my family. It's I've got a YouTube channel. I've told my sister, my sister knows about Vampire Wallace, and that they can see me like transform at times, but I don't talk about it. And the reason why I don't talk about it is that certain words will bring up. I was thinking about this today. Certain words will bring up trauma, will bring up feelings, and bring up. And I don't want to do that to anybody, especially somebody in my family or somebody who loves me. So like I try to avoid saying certain things. But it's very obvious, and they love me very much, and I'm very appreciative of that. And they know I live a hard life. They know I struggle, and they know. part of me wants Part of me used to justify, I still do this to this day. I justify my lifestyle, struggling lifestyle, to indicate, and this is kind of revealing. This is a revealing moment, but it's kind of obvious if you think about it. My life sucks. If I was really like a manipulative, like crazy whatever, which I can't be, because I just like gave an example of why everybody knows I'm a vampire, right? Like, but if I was, wouldn't I be like super successful? Like, wouldn't I have like a lot of money and be like going everywhere? No, well, that's not how it is. And I think that's a terrible reason to justify. And I know it's a stupid reason for me to justify me being a good person because I'm struggling. No, nowadays, maybe that was just, I didn't have a choice. Like, all I could do is struggle. And honestly, it's still true to this day. Um, like I said, I'm kind of crazy right now, a little tired, but it's raining. You know how I feel about storms. Always makes me feel kind of crazy. But um, but yeah, it's struggling. I feel like that's part of being. I've learned today, actually, a few things, that there is like a. Well, I tried to look at when someone comes around, they see me, and they're like, "Oh, that guy obviously is a vampire." How do people know? Like, obviously, I look different, but I really ask the questions, like, it's like instinctual. It's instinctual. I was gonna say inside DNA or whatever. Didn't mean to be dramatic, but like it's there. It's like part of their brain, just like, whoop, there's a vampire. You know. So it makes me believe that vampires have existed for a very long time. Okay. Now, with that being said, do I? There's a lot of things on my mind right now, but I used to think, well, if I can't be successful, if I can't even really get a job, if it's instinctual in every human being or most human beings I've ever met, that I'm like a bad creature or whatever. Not necessarily bad, but like a dark creature, like of that variety. Even though I do good things and am a nice person and a good person, do I'm still like, it's just instinctual that I'm bad, but like a bad and kind of like a acceptable way. It's weird. It's super weird. Um, I'm still trying to understand it. I don't know. I don't know. Like, obviously, I love people, right? And I love myself too. But and there's some days where I'm super low key, like super just trying to be alone, and I feel bad about myself, and I'm like, man, it sucks being a vampire. I did that today. I was just like, man, you know, uh, everybody is instinctually hating me, and instinctually like afraid and like hating of me. Not everybody, obviously, but and I'm like, this sucks, And I'm just like, obviously, I've had this thought before, but I'm just kind of like stewing in it, right? And sometimes I do that, and it's a good stress relief. But um, I also thought about today the fact that I've thought about uh, a few things I want to be really careful about, but also I feel like I have a little bit extra artistic license, so to speak. Like the phrase where you're given a little bit more allowance than probably somebody else would be able to be allowed because I'm a vampire saying this. I don't know if I'm extra in tune with like spiritual stuff, God, nature, um, spirituality, magic, and stuff like that. If I'm more in tune than, let's say, a regular dude, I think I am. Okay. Now, with that being said, I know I'm trying to be. I'm annoying myself right now. Like with my vampire like mindset, I'm like I'm ridiculous. But I'm trying to vent. I'm trying to vent a little bit. Do I feel bad when I hear? I don't know how to say this. This is therapy. This is definitely therapy for me. Let me say this first. I love our society. I really, really love the freedom of speech, and freedom of religion, and freedom of worship. Okay. Now, I understand that when people have a person they look up to for whatever reason, there's different reasons that they get something. They get something uh, in their life, in their being, that uplifts them or potentially brings them down. Okay. Do I? Sorry, there's a fly in here. It's been here for a while. I don't really like talking about this, but I'm just gonna say it. Like, people who think that I'm close to God, or have like a spiritual affinity, or like um, I got to be really careful with these words, but like someone who can be looked to for like spiritual stuff. Basically, what I'm trying to say. Do I think that's wrong? Well, I think it could be, but also I think if it's giving something to somebody, like I said earlier, a positive thing, and people are feeling empowered and feeling good, I don't see how that can necessarily be bad. Now, with that being said, um, there's things in place right now. There's churches, obviously. There's religions already existing. There's things like that already there. But there's something different. There's something different about vampires. And the reason why I say this is what I said about earlier. Um, how people intrinsically have that uh, ability to identify a vampire, and they feel these feelings. It's like in everybody. Well, is it wrong for them to want to approach spirituality with a vampire? Is it wrong? I don't think it is. I don't. Especially a good vampire. But with that being said, I don't know. It brings up a lot of topics. But honestly, if I was some young dude, if I was not a vampire, and I was myself as not a vampire, and a young guy or a young person or same age, and if I wasn't interested in the option of what's out there, if I didn't feel able to connect, I'd probably look at a vampire and be like, "That's a nice vampire," and he's like doing like spiritual stuff and trying to do like spiritual guidance stuff. Yeah, I'm probably into that. Probably interested. Probably pretty cool. I don't feel like a charlatan. I don't feel like a snake oil salesman, so to speak. I don't feel like someone who's being manipulative. I don't. Because what am I being manipulative of, if I'm being honest? I just think like number one rule, don't hurt anybody. Number two rule, obey the laws. Be ethical. I spent a good amount of time today in prayer. It's a little different for me personally, and I obviously have never spoken to another vampire about this, but I'd imagine just for vampires, prayer is a little bit different. Um, I was praying. I was opening up my mind. Um, Asking for spiritual guidance because I definitely need it. I think everyone does. Maybe not everybody, but people who are wanting to improve their lives or get closer to God, higher power. Absolutely. I think it's in us. I think it's deeply ingrained in us. So I think I'm going to end the video here. Definitely got to think about a few things, but I think I've, stayed on message of raising positive vampire awareness and of feeling good about what I say, as far as being truthful and honest. So, yeah. Um, all right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it here, and y'all have a great day.